Okay, we're live. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to another OBANZ community call. This is our October call. We missed one in September, but really, really pleased about tonight's call. We're coinciding with the Connected Educator Month, and we're hearing what the beautiful people at Core Ed in New Zealand have been doing with their digital credentialing to support ongoing professional development. So first things first, we've got 3 people on the panel at the moment, but there might be more people joining us. As you know, we run this as a hangout, and then we also have an Etherpad which we use, and we tweeted that link earlier, so you can find it on the OBANZ Twitter handle, or you can find it on our Google Plus page, and you can also find it on our Facebook page. So if you're joining us and you want to join in the Etherpad that we've got set up where we're doing a collective note-taking, then you can find it there. And if you want to volunteer there in order to join us on the Hangout, then you can. We've got 3 people on the panel, and we'll just do a very quick introduction round. Then I'll tell you a little bit more about OBANZ, and then we'll get started and hear from Tara. So my name is Joyce Seitzinger, and I'm an education technologist. I've worked mainly in higher education and corporate training, and I currently work part-time at La Trobe University, and I also run a company called Academic Tribe, where we provide education technology, learning design, and open services. The other people here in the room are Bron Stuckey. Bron, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Bronwyn Stuckey, and I work I'm a consultant in gamification and community building, communities of practice. I work in design and research in those areas, and Open Badges fit right out in terms of aspects of gamification across all K-12 and higher ed. And I'm excited that we've got Tara, I'm going to throw to Tara now, as our lead tonight from New Zealand.
Kia ora tātou, I'm Tara Fagan. I work with Core Education and based here in Wellington, New Zealand, and I'll introduce myself a little bit later on, but just thrilled to be here. Thanks very much.
Wonderful, thank you. And we're just trying to get Grant McDonald on as well. I've just, Grant, if you're listening, which I think you are, I've just sent you an email to your Gmail account, so you should be able to just follow that link and join us. If you're new to OBANZ, OBANZ stands for Open Badges Australia and New Zealand. We're basically a community or / user group, people who are setting up Open Badges projects, or who are just interested in Open Badges, and who would like to just share experiences and explore the Open Badges system a little bit more. We set this up originally in coordination with the Open Badges people from Mozilla, who've been doing all of the wonderful work on the Open Badges infrastructure, and we've set the community calls up in such a way that they mirror the way that Mozilla and now the Badge Alliance runs their community calls, mainly to do with the time zones, because none of us really fancy being up at 3 o'clock in the morning to talk badges, as interesting as they are. So if you want to, you can just follow us on the Google Plus page. You can view all of the previous Hangouts online, and you can also contribute to the live chat in the Etherpad that we've always got going on. So tonight the address for the Etherpad is obanz.etherpad.mozilla.org/9. But like I said, we've also posted it on our Twitter handle, so you should be able to track us down there. And I'm really pleased that together facilitating the OBANZ community with me is Bron Stuckey, who has actually done all of the hard yards together with Tara on organizing tonight's presentation. So I'm going to be mainly on the Etherpad, just chatting to you all, and Bron and Tara will start the discussion, and then I'll be jumping in back and forth. So with that, Bron and Tara, I'm giving it over to you. I'm really looking forward to this.
Okay, thanks Joyce. Yeah, I don't know how many of you know that we're currently in the middle of, right smack in the middle of Connected Educator Month around the world. And Tara has been the spearhead for the New Zealand version, or the New Zealand branch of Connected Educator Month. And it's been a really juicy 15 days so far. And if you haven't been part of it, you've got 15 more days still that you can jump in and see what connected educators around the world are doing. But New Zealand's turning out to be a bit of a hub of good things, and so we invited Tara to tell us about what she's been doing with CORE for Connected Educator Month, and how they've been looking at accrediting people's work in Connected Educator Month with badges. So less of me and more of Tara. I'm going to hand over to Tara for now. Tara's going to tell us a bit about what she's doing, and then we'll open up for questions. But if you have a question in the meantime, you're welcome to leave it in the chat, either in the MoPad or here in the Hangout. And if anyone would like to jump on and join us on the platform, just signal that in the MoPad and we'll get you invited in. So I'm going to hand over to Tara. I'm going to mute so, you know, so we get less interference here and make sure we get good quality sound.
Kia ora tātou. Ko Castlebrooke tuku waka, ko Auraki tuku manga, ko Raka tuku awa, ko Te Pānau o Aotearoa tuku iwi, no Raka o. Ko Graham tuku papa, ko Rosalie tuku mama, ko Taylor rawa ko Jackson aku tamatane, ko Mackenzie taku tamahine, ko Tara Fagan taku ingoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you so much for having me along to share our core education project. I'm Tara Fagan. I'm a facilitator based here in Wellington and work for core education. And just delighted to be able to share some of our work, but also to be able to engage in the discussion that I'm sure will result as part of this community. You know, the badging system's so new, and it's nice to be able to find a community that bases itself on that philosophy of being open and sharing and collaborative. So thanks very much. I'm, well, thanking you in advance. Also, thanks too for the mention of Connected Educator Month. We're loving it down here in New Zealand. First time we've officially run it. As much as I'd like to take credit for organising it all, I have to say Karen Malewis-Spencer, who's a colleague of mine at Core Educations, or is known as @virtually Karen on Twitter, has been responsible for pulling it all together and making it the event that it's turned out to be. I have been involved in some of the events, but more importantly, my particular role has been around designing some of the badges that we've used for Connected Educator Month, which I'm very keen to show you very shortly. So perhaps we'll just get started on that right now. Now, as I'm talking, I'm not going to look at any of the chats because I find I get myself distracted and stop mid-sentence, so I'll leave that to you two to be able to do that for me, and just stop me when you need to, and we'll ask questions. So I'm just going to try and start the screen share here. So let's see how we go. I had it up and working before, and of course it's decided to disappear on me. Bear with me one moment. Bring it up to the top. Go. Great. Can you see the screen share now? Just can't see in the background. I'm just working from the one device. Can you? Yep, you can. Yep. Fabulous. Thank you. That's great. So this is Core Education. CORE is a not-for-profit professional learning and development organisation that also offers consultancy in all fields of education. So we work in New Zealand and also some international work, and we work in the sectors from early childhood right through. So my background in teaching is early childhood. I'm a trained early childhood teacher, but in the last few years have shifted more into the school sector to be able to work. But we offer that in terms of all the work that we do. So that's our core. We have about 140 staff now, ranging from the bottom of our South Island through to the top of our North Island, who work, as I said, in all sectors of education, from early childhood through to primary, and some into tertiary as well, looking at all things to do with education. So that's CORE, and it's our website if you'd like to find out a little bit more. as part of a project that we've been looking at, the CORE's been doing some thinking about how we can add more value to some of our programs of learning that we have. And we've come up, digital badging fits in so nicely with that, because it's about that ability to be able to recognise not only the formal learning that we do, but also all the other learning that happens all around us. So when we started looking at this more in depth, we looked at what it could offer us and wanted to represent, or to have terms that were more representative of us here in Aotearoa. So He Tohu Oranga is what we've determined or named our badging system. Tohu being a symbol or a sign, and Oranga meaning life, sustenance, well-being. So when you put it together, it's about acknowledging that learning is an important part of our journey and that it's representative of everything that we do. So, you know, not just the academic qualifications, but all those other skills that we can bring and learn from. And for me, that's what's really important about the whole badging process, that it is about that full recognition of everything that we are and do. So He Tohu Oranga is what we have named our system, and we've designed it for our suite of our professional learning programs. So we have a range of conferences that we offer. We've just finished our big You Learn conference. It was 3 days last week. And we also offer 20-week package courses that are predominantly done online around topics such as modern learning practices or pedagogies. We offer an e-fellowship, which is a 1-year long-term, in-depth looking at using teachers as inquiry, but it's also looking at exploring innovative and effective and equitable practice as well. And so the e-fellows have a very comprehensive program put in front of them all the time while they're teaching at the same time. And of course this year with Connected Educators Month. So we wanted to look at a range that we could add value to everything that we do, but also recognise the learning that's happening for our teachers throughout anything that they engage with, not only within core but outside of that. So that's a little bit about why we've done it. What we have done when we were looking at open badges, I'm very, very lucky in that I work with a hugely talented team of people, and Nigel, who works in our IT department, I was talking to him about digital badging and getting him to look at backpacks for what might suit our purposes, and he's developed our own He Tohu Oranga digital badging backpack, and the address is at the top of the screen, www.badges.core-ed.org, and anyone can go in there, so I encourage you to go in and have a look around the site. It works with the open badge interface so that the badges are transferable, which was really important to us. It's no good having for us it wasn't about having a close-off system where the badges stayed. You can keep them in this backpack. You can transfer them over to or add them to other backpacks that you might have, as well as being able to display them and have all that important data sitting in behind them. So this was designed for us. It's very much a work in progress. We started trialling it, well, we released it last week at You Learn with a set of badges that I'll show you. So far we've had quite a number of people being able to come in and access and test what badging is. So so we're quite excited to see how it goes and to see just how people are engaging with it. And also, you know, as I said, it's a beginning start. We're looking at where it might go to next. So this is the outer part of the backpack. Once you log in, you've got your registration code and you go through, you can see there that we've got a very similar style. You can manage any badges that you have. You can create and manage your collections. You can choose who you share them with. So all those things that are very important to badging, we've tried to develop within our backpack. And of course, if you want to see what badges are on offer from Core Education, you can click on the Earn the Badges as well. If you were to go into My Badges, you can upload badges that you've earned at other sites as long as they're transferable, and upload them into the backpack as well, so that they're all, wherever you choose to keep them, they're all there in the one place. With our badges, we have also designed it to obviously operate with all our systems. So in terms of if you're participating in one of our courses that we offer, all these sites are interoperable as well, which is one of the other reasons that we decided to create our own backpack rather than look at some of the existing ones that were on the market. So that's our badge backpack, and as I said, been designed to interface with all our other systems. So there's two things that we're doing within our badge backpack. There's badges that you can earn, which, like most things, is based on a award, which are some of the badges that I'm going to show you here. But we've also got a set of badges that we push out to people. So yeah, some of the ones like our eFellow badges and that we push out. So we don't want people self-awarding or being able to get those. They sort of sit in behind our system and we push them out as people earn them. So I've screenshotted a page of my badge backpack here as we were testing it out, and you can see here up the top I've got a public link that is there that we can use to, I can use to share, or to share with anybody that I want to, or not, should I choose not to. And then I've got some of the badges that I've earned down here. If I was to download those badges, like any badges, they come downloaded and the data goes with them. And these are two of our badges from Connected Educator Month. Our guitar picks, as we like to call them, they resemble them in some ways, and very basic in terms of sets of badges, I guess, but in terms of that we've tried to keep them very low key in some aspects of the design, but not in others. And that's one of the things I'm keen to discuss at the end of this, is about badge design, because we've had a lot of discussion around what badges should look like, yeah, and different aspects that they should be able to incorporate. So with Connected Educator Month, we're offering our badges in both Te Reo Māori and English. So Connected Educator Month has a starter kit that's available that you obviously have in Australia as well, work through on a daily basis, and some of those activities have badges that you can collect and earn at the end of them, which is really, we're really interested to see the pickup rate on this, because we've introduced it and keen to see. As I said, we've had a number of people register for the backpack, and we're in the process of tracking those badges now to see how many people are awarding them. So these are obviously very standard badges, and as I said, self-awarded. Within each badge there is some data that sits within, and I've got a slide coming up with what might be sitting in there. But I also have the ability to be able to put notes in. So as you can see, I was testing out the Twitter flying badge there, and you can see I've just linked into my Twitter handle there. So there's the ability to be able to personalise it and put your own evidence of learning in there as well, which is something that we're working on, because I mean, obviously that's important, because you need to be able to showcase your learning with some of our deeper badges as we go on. So that's one set of our badges. And when you click on and you go to earn badges, you can see that we've got a range there that you can select, and you can see in more detail now how they're looking. So we've got some badges for our conferences, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and also our range of badges that we offer in both Te Reo Māori and English for Connected Educator Month. And it's been a really, I have to say, Connected Educator Month's been a really nice platform to be able to start with for our He Tohu Oranga system. As I mentioned, we've just had our ULearn conference, and we trialled releasing 2 sets of badges for that. Now we had a pre-conference day as well, which was called ULearn Mobile, which are the badges at the top. So we've issued 2 badges for that. And when we talk about badge design, we took the logo that we use for ULearn, which are the white designs at the top of the badge, and placed them on the badge, because we wanted them to be very visible, so that when you looked at them, you could, if the ULearn logo was, you could automatically identify that as being a ULearn badge. So we've taken that. We've got an attendee badge, which is self-awarded based on a honesty system where you need to confirm that you've attended the conference, and then the presenter badges, which we are releasing to the people that were presented. So by the end of this week, everybody who's presented at ULearn will be sent their presenter badge, so that they can choose whether they display it or not. But that's something that we decided that we would keep within our system and send out. We hope that presenters will link through to their abstracts that went with the presenters, so that there's a bit more weightier information in there. We had hoped to do that this year. It's not going to happen until next year, so it won't be automated, but manually people will be able to just link through to their abstract and put that in. And it's possible too that they may want to link through to their evaluations of their workshop, but we're leaving that as an option for the presenters to do. But we are encouraging them to link through to their abstracts. So as I said, it's there along with the dates and times that was presented along and what they presented on. So you can see here, here's the criteria, the data sitting behind, or some of the data sitting behind the ULearn Mobile Attendee badge. So you can see there's just a brief description of what the conference was about, and also some information on the conference strands. So really this is just a badge for attending, participation, to show your ongoing commitment to professional learning and development. And like the badges for presenters, we hope that the attendees, if they reflect, if they tweet, if they have collected any notes or anything while they are at ULearn, that they link that in the notes section, so that it becomes a really full reflective record of their experience attending ULearn and ULearn Mobile. And here's our special collection of badges that we've developed for Connected Educator Month. As I talked about earlier, if you work through the starter kit, it gives you options to be able to earn badges. And when Karen and I were talking about the badges that we were offering, we don't have badges for every activity. And we've also designed a series of badges so that perhaps if you're new to connecting online, such as new to joining up to Twitter or new to exploring a blog, you can earn badges at that level. But we've also got some badges to support our experienced mentors that are coming online and supporting their peers and colleagues to collaborate online, to help lead them, to help showcase some of the things that online learning do, so that we've got the range and we're trying to cater for both people that are doing and what people are doing. And we also wanted to acknowledge about people being connected online. So if you earn 3 of our badges, 3 of our He Tohu Oranga badges, then you can apply for one of the Connected Educator badges that you see down the bottom. So again, in English and in Māori, you can choose which one you would like to display. You can't have both, which we have had a few people want to be able to claim both badges. The idea is that you take one and then you can add that to your backpack. So by collecting 3 of the badges elsewhere, then you can come in and collect that overall Connected Educator badge, which I think is a lovely way of being able to indicate you are a connected educator, that you are trying, that you are connecting online, and that's something, if not all of them, that you might choose to display on your professional portfolio and your online networks. I must say, looking at these badges, I haven't acknowledged our graphic designer. When I talked about working with a very talented team at CORE, not only do we have a very clever IT department, we also have a graphic designer on our team. So he worked with a brief, and as I said, we were backwards and forwards a bit about the badge design and what they were going to look like at this stage. And so he took that and was able to develop these. So they're very much an in-house core product in terms of what we've done in terms of design. And you can just see here the criteria for the network badges. So you could go to the starter kitty and have a look at the criteria for each badge, or you can click on the badges as they appear on the backpack and be able to go in and have a look at what that was. So you can see, to be a networker, this is for some of our experienced connectors. It's about going online, joining and participating in an online community or discussion forum, exploring some networks, and completed the activities as we've outlined there. And once you have confirmed that you've met the requirements, then you can award yourself the badge. And as I said, hopefully in that notes section, that when you start an online discussion or forum discussion, you're linking through to that in the notes. And just a collection of our badges that we've designed throughout for the whole of Connected Educator Month, along with a couple of the ULearn badges that are there. And I think that at this stage, this is a complete suite of badges that you can award yourself without us sending them to you. So there's quite a collection there for Connected Educator Month, and a reasonable good way to be able to start off with He Tohu Oranga. We also have an eFellow badge, and this was part of the reason we launched, along with Connected Educator Month, that we launched the badges last week, because our eFellows, which is the year-long intensive program looking at innovative practice, they had their 10th anniversary last week, and so it seemed like the perfect place to be able to celebrate the badges and the release of them. So they were officially launched at the eFellow dinner. We had a cake designed in the shape of our eFellow badge as well, and you know, I can't emphasise the strength of this eFellow program and how much work each eFellow does. We generally have, I think we have 10 a year, they range across the sectors, early childhood through, that apply through a process and get selected. And at the end of this, they will get an eFellow badge that looks like this. And again, lots of thought has gone into the design of these badges. And the eFellow badge, interestingly enough, is going to become a permanent badge. So we're in the process of getting permanent badges made in this eFellow design to award to eFellows at each of their ceremonies every year when the final lot graduate at ULearn and the new lot are selected. So everybody will get a physical badge as well, which is something I actually hadn't put a lot of thought into, but I liked the idea when it was suggested, but we will only do that at this stage. We're only thinking of doing it with these eFellows. So it's a badge of pride, a badge of honour. So they've got the digital one with all their data and their rich stories and their innovative practices sitting there online. Choose to wear the physical badge as well.
I'm just going to stop you there.
Yeah.
Tara, I'm just going to stop you there for a sec and say, getting lots of praise in the chat for the badge designs. People really like them. Someone has asked, Colin I think has asked a broader question about repositories for badges to inspire people. Did you look at a lot of other badge designs before you worked through to these? Because I know, having worked in this area myself, I found a number of the graphic artists got locked up in icons instead of badges. And so what homework did you have to do to get to these beautiful badges that you've got?
Yes, we had a lot of toing and froing about badges, because a lot of what you do see is the icons, and we had discussions about whether they were right for core and what we wanted to represent, or whether we wanted to look, what we were looking for. So, and that's one of the reasons I'm keen to talk badge design, because we've had this internal discussion. And so for the badges that we were able to release around Connected Educator Month and ULearn, we went for the badges that you saw, but we've had a lot of internal discussion as well as external with people about what we think our badges should look like. So yes, graphic designers and others can get very tied up with the, I want to say, traditional badges that are out there, and that seems funny because badges haven't been around for that long, but in terms of the digital badges. But yes, the little icons and the designs that were there, but we've gone for what we have. So I'm really interested to have as I said, a really good discussion around that and to see what people think of our design, because they are a bit different to others that I've seen, and I'm not sure where we're going to go with the next steps for our next round of badges.
And I have a question as well, and I noticed Joyce asked a question. Do you see the backpack as becoming some kind of e-portfolio, or simply a badge repository? How do you see it going? And we'll go with that question first.
At this stage, it's very much a holding place or a repository for badges. We encourage teachers to have their professional portfolio. So we, rather than create a professional portfolio for them, we want them to be able to choose what platform's right for them, but they can take these badges that are being hosted in our backpack and being able to put them on their professional portfolio, because I mean, those two are so entwined. You know, the badge is only really a symbol backed by the metadata of the professional learning, of the professional practice that has been ongoing for those teachers. So we really hope that they take those badges from the backpack and are showcasing them on their portfolios.
Fantastic, and a really great point. Two things I probably comments and questions. I love the fact that I can add my own evidence to the badge as well. But I noticed with the Connected Educator Month from America, the badges there, which are also pretty cool if people want to go and have a look at how they're offering badges. But you have to apply for every single one of those. And I noticed you said you have some that are self-awarded. And what brought you to that decision? Because it seems like a lot of administrative work has to sit behind if every single badge is awarded, and someone has to say, yes, you've earned that.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point, because obviously there are a couple of issues. One, you want to reduce your administrative load, too, of being able to push those badges out to people. But, you know, we also want to, I mean, we trust our teachers. We want them, you know, they've got to tick a box. They've got to agree that they've met the criteria. And rather than sort of hold them and us control the system by pushing them out, we thought actually for connected educators, we want our teachers to be connected, to be encouraged to connect. And rather than us hold the badges and send them to them, we thought, wouldn't it be great if you've signed up for Twitter and straight away you can go and get your badge. We're obviously testing it and working through the process. We don't know how it's going to work, and that's why I'm interested to get some of the data and the statistics, and we're also talking to some of the teachers that have awarded badges simply to see what they think about that. But, you know, at this stage it's just very much trial and error.
And I'm just going to jump in there with a follow-up question, because of course one of the possibilities would be for people to just, you know, get the lower level badges themselves, but then deliver something that's like a collation of all of those and of all of those badges and of the evidence that would then be assessed by someone. Is that something that you guys looked at, Tara?
Sorry, just repeat that. You just went a little bit blank on me there.
I was just saying, you know, because the badges can stack, there's always the ability to still keep people motivated by having those low barrier, low level badges that people can self-issue, but then have a higher level badge that they would apply for, where they might be required to submit a portfolio of some sort.
And that's definitely what we're looking at for our next stage of badges. Simply because some of the way our programs are structured, we're looking at, we're currently reviewing the criteria and the assessment that's sitting in behind that, and looking at how we can do exactly what you've said, stack some of our badges upon each other, or look at ways that we can issue, recognise the learning that's happening while they're learning through our professional courses, which then can be stacked and they come out with their own, an overall or overarching badge at the end. So I'm reluctant to use those terms lightweight and heavy, because I think actually if you've earned a badge and you want to use it, then it says other badges. But I guess in the scheme of things, there are different weights to badges. But yeah, those stackable ones are certainly something that we're looking at this next round, particularly in recognising our professional learning programs. But in saying that, I can see them working equally well in schools for children. And I just can't wait to start own badge systems and working out what's important for their learning and where they can go to with that.
So how many badges exactly did you launch with? And how did you guys arrive at that number? Or did you kind of go, we're just going to kind of be organic about it? Like, how did you make those decisions?
Yep. How did we make those decisions? Well, we are looking at the background in terms of our professional learning programs, but with ULearn coming up, it seemed a perfect opportunity to trial the ULearn presenter and attendee badges, and Connected Educator was just the right time as well to be able to trial that. And obviously modelled very much off the United States starter kit and all the rest. They've been very gracious in what they've shared with us, and so that seemed like the perfect time to sort of just trial it. And it gives us, along with the eFellow badges, but it also gives us an opportunity to test the system, to test the badge backpack, and to see how that data interacts with those badges. So there's sort of, that's just sort of how we arrived at where we're at right now, but in the background got this other stream of information going on.
Yeah, there's a question from Grant who says, and we talked a lot about this indeed in the last call about trust networks, and because we had presentations from universities, and of course universities are interested in badges and issuing badges, which is great, but then they're almost like mimicking the trust networks that we already have. So what Grant is saying here is, we talked at length in the last chat about trust, and I worry that with self-awarded badges, the trust in the issuer might be weaker.
Yeah, and that's something we're very aware of, and and hence why we're trialling the badges that we are, bearing in mind that it's only the Connected Educator ones are self-awarded and attending a conference are. The eFellows, which is our in-depth long-term program, and being a presenter are something that we award. So, you know, it's a difficult one to work through. We want to make sure that anything that we issue obviously comes with credibility, and that, you know, I mean, that's hugely important. Otherwise, we're letting, we need to be able to issue them with credibility. So it's something that we're still working through, and I don't know, but the self-awarded badges at the moment, while they're still valuable, the other ones we're issuing to the people. So yeah, we've got two streams running at the moment.
I think
sorry, go ahead, Bron.
I was just going to pick up on that because I think you made a good point there about trust in teachers, and that's a big thing in our profession at the moment. Teachers don't feel trusted. And like the kids, we say, if you trust in the kids, they always measure up. You know, they always work harder if they know you've trusted in them. So I think there's an issue of trust there that's really important. But if I take, say, one of the badges in Connected Educator Month, which is, I think, the CEM promoter, and to get that badge, you have to provide the link to three or more public points where you promoted Connected Educator Month. And that then is the evidence behind my badge. But there's no reason I couldn't have equally awarded myself that badge and put those three URLs, those three links, as evidence on the badge. You know, if I can provide the evidence, did I need someone to view it for every level of badge? So I think there is room there for, you know, because any badge is only as good as the metadata and the evidence that sits behind it, as you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that badge, in fact, Bron, sorry, Tara, that badge, in fact, could be peer awarded. You know, the way that you just described it. You know, Bron, that is something where I could look at your evidence and say, yeah, she's done this. And have you got any kind of peer awarding? Did you guys consider peer awarding, Tara, in your system?
We did consider peer awarding. But simply just ran out of time to be able to put the systems into place to be able to do it. But it is something that we're considering, because as well as issuing badges for professional learning programs about peer and recognition of learning, and how do you do that? Because actually that's just as valuable. Fellow teachers can see what's happening in the classroom far better than I can from the outside, and there should be badges being awarded for that. But yeah, just the data that's sitting in behind it and the way that we're going to award that, yeah, it's a bit more, still having those discussions about how that will work. And you know, these are things that I'd love the answers to really quickly.
That was a big thing in the plain community that we looked at, was this, Joyce, for getting feedback. Sorry. Was the social gifting of badges, that not just if I taught well in a classroom, but if I want to recognise that you, Tara, have contributed greatly to my understanding on a topic, you've mentored me through something, then I could award you a badge in recognition of that. And I think, you know, beyond the content-related or the practice-related, the leadership-related issues that can be recognised by a colleague or peer, I think that social gifting is really a really sweet spot for us to look at. And I understand you jumped in and got started for Connected Educator Month, and I know these things are on the agenda, but I think a lot of what's happening out in formal education doesn't look at that. So that a lot of academic badging systems don't consider social gifting or peer assessment, and I think that's really important.
I completely agree, and I think there's a lot of things that, you know, will emerge from this badging system as we go on. But as I said at the beginning, I love its ability to recognise us as a whole person and what we do and what we contribute in our learning. So yeah, the sooner we can get there, the better, I think, in terms of development. But it is too also taking the time to be able to think very carefully about how we do these, so that we're not jumping in. And I've had to pull myself back several times because I want to be able to jump in and be issuing these badges, but it's also about standing back and taking a look and making sure that we're doing it in a credible way that's valuable to people around them.
So one thing that I've talked about in presentations I've done on open badges is how open badges and the development of a badge system kind of mimics a lean startup cycle, in that, you know, you've got an idea, you kind of get your first idea out there, you measure it, you see how the users are using it, and then built on the metrics, you then go back in and redesign, and you keep on going through that cycle. And I'm wondering, so what metrics are you measuring? Are you capturing? And how are you evaluating them? I know you said, oh, you know, we're talking to the teachers, etc. But you know, like, how are you going about that?
We've got a team of people internally that we are talking to about them, but it is about the teachers and how they're going to use them, as well as people that, I guess, the stakeholders in them. So for us, it's very important, if you're going to put them on a professional portfolio, there's weighting in behind there about professionalism, about linking through to teacher registration, all that sort of thing. So it's talking to a range of stakeholders about what's happening, watching the stats that are coming in on who's applying for badges, how many are awarded, are people just applying for one, or are they working through, in terms of the Connected Educators ones, are they working through to that main badge? And then talking to them about what's motivated them to go down there, what value do they see. Like anywhere, it's very new days in terms of badging, and so a lot of it is just even educating about what badges are, how they differ from scouting badges, or how they differ from merit charts or stickers that you might get in the classroom, you know, which are often the things that we come up against. So it's, I guess, and I don't know that it's a good answer to your question, but it's sort of, part of it is promoting what badges and open badges can offer, but two, it's about talking to the people that are, that are awarding them and receiving them to see what they think.
I'm just going to jump in. Grant's posted a really interesting point in the chat, in the mopad, that LinkedIn has a system where individuals state their expertise and then their contacts verify that expertise. And so maybe there's space there to have verifiers added to the metadata, so someone who verifies it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be centrally someone in core. And I think that's a really interesting solution as well. And there's another question. I was going to add a point myself. The point was made that perhaps attendance badges are not as important to users as perhaps other more practice-based badges. But then again, if I'm looking at someone's badge kit and I see they've attended this and that and the other conference, it gives me a sense of who that person is, what domains they're really interested in. You know, they're all part of identity, and people are choosing which of these they make public. So they're crafting their identity out of the badges they've earned. There's the value that the core assumes for each badge, but there's the bit that's really important is the value users place on the badge in terms of how they fit their identity.
I totally agree with that. I think that in that way, that community participation badge almost, which is, you know, what a conference badge is, I was here almost as, I see myself as a community, as a member of this community. I see my, you know, it's almost like the smallest action you can take on the periphery, you know, of that community of practice. So I think, that's where those badges are really strong, even if they haven't got a lot of rigor behind them, just as an identifier, really. I had a question, and I know that you want to talk about the badge design, so I don't want to infringe on that too much, but the platform, you've mentioned starter kit or badge kit. Have you guys built it off badge kit? Is it badge kit souped up with Drupal? What is it?
I can't tell you that. I need to ask Nigel. I have no idea what it's built in. I know he's done some questioning online and talked to people about open badge interfaces, but apart from that, I have, yeah. And I'll show my ignorance there. Coding and working in behind the scenes and things like that, I don't know. I just rang him up and said, you know, we talked about what we were wanting to do and achieve, obviously, but I said for me, what's sitting behind it, the metadata is what I want to be able to see, and that's what he's come back with. So I can certainly post that question to Nigel and be able to respond back to whoever it is that's asking if I've got a contact email, or I might even put it in the Etherpad.
Well, that would be me. But
yeah.
but also I know that this is a question that lots of people have. You know, currently the only really accessible, easy platform is Credly, and you know, people are starting to look for things that can actually be tailored a little bit more and where you have a little bit more control. So I just know that it's a question that many people have. So yeah, if you can share some more about it, or if Nigel wanted to write a blog post about it or something like that, that would be awesome.
I was going to take up Colin's question on proportion of attendees that might have applied for badges. Now, I think that's probably going to be a difficult one because Connected Educator Month has events happening in all kinds of different platforms, face-to-face, online, and all over. But do you have any numbers at the moment about badges that have been attained?
I've got really limited data just at this stage, and simply because they were there. It was opened up last week at ULearn, which does coincide with Connected Educator Month, and I think when I looked this afternoon we had about 360 registered users, so they've come in within the last week. Now that doesn't mean that they've applied for badges, it just means that they've registered for the site, but we are starting to track our badges, which will give us historical data, so we'll be able to look back and see how many of those have been awarded and who's not necessarily, well, yes, just to see how many of each badge has been awarded. So I'll know more in the future, but because this has all just happened, you know, within the last week, data's really light off the ground at the moment. So yeah, but I think that the inference of how many we've had come in that last week has been relatively good, because it's been a real soft launch in that we haven't done a lot of promotion around it yet or anything. I mean, it was obviously released at ULearn, but the promotion of it has been fairly soft in terms of that. So to get about 350, I think there were about 1,700 at the conference, and Connected Educators at this stage.
And fantastic. Sorry, it is. That's wonderful. I can't wait to see how that develops. I've got a question that's more with you're thinking about the beginning of it, but also how it's going to evolve. Because one of the things that a lot of people who have actually started with their badge systems are talking about is this whole idea of people endorsing each other's badges and you know, letting badges into your system, or perhaps, you know, starting to issue them as well for, you know, somebody else's badge. What is your thinking about linking or endorsing with these other badge systems? How did you guys go about that? Like, who could, for instance, endorse one of your badges?
Yeah, well, that's a work in progress, like anything that we're doing, and you know, apologies for keep saying that, but it really has just evolved in a rapid amount of space. One of the reasons that we did go for a core design backpack was because we wanted our badges to have value, and that whole the conversations that are happening at the moment about people being able to force badges into your backpack was something that we didn't want to happen to our, you know, if we don't want to control things, but we wanted to make sure that the badges that were held, you know, people could choose to upload them, that's fine, but the whole forcing of badges we weren't sure about. The endorsement, which sort of, comes back to that earlier part of our conversation around LinkedIn, we've also looked at. We want to make sure, again, that anything that we offer is verified and has that strong supportive data. And I don't want to criticise LinkedIn for their system of badges, but I often know that I can get endorsed for certain things, and I've never engaged with that person at all. And so we wanted to make sure that if there is endorsements, it comes from people that have the right to be able to endorse, whether it's us, whether it's another provider, or whether it's a colleague that you work with. So that, again, is a work in progress, and we're looking through how we can do that. And it's the same, I guess, too, just talking, thinking about those attendance badges too. We've done a lot of thinking about at what level do you start awarding badges? Do you award them for just attending a conference? Do you award them for perhaps attending a 1-hour webinar or a 3-hour course? And it's something that we're negotiating through at the moment. I've been doing some reading, and I can't think who's written a recent post, but somebody had shared something online about, who are we to say what difference that 1-hour webinar or that attendance at that conference might have made in terms of their learning pathway? That might have been the start of the spark of what's inspired people to go off and take other aspects of their learning. And when I think about badging, creating that learning pathway where there's multiple entry and exit points coming in and off, I've started to change my thinking on what some of those lighter badges might be like. Yes, it might be an attendance badge, but actually that may have been the whole difference for someone, or for them attending that conference might have been a huge thing. So yeah, still something that we're negotiating and having lots of conversations about, and I want to continue having these conversations.
I've got another question for you, just as which is a little bit related to the design, because I love your badges. They're very pretty. You have to tell your graphic designer that we were all drooling over them, because they're just delicious. And I like that they feel a little bit more modern. I've seen quite a few badge systems where people have gone a little bit retro with the badges, and I like how modern yours feel. But I'm also wondering about, so obviously visual interface is very important, and I know that Kate Coleman, who we had here at the last OBANZ call, she talked a lot about how they had thought about all of the symbols and what the colors would mean and what the shapes would mean, and how important that is to the users as well, so that you're developing that together with the users. But looking at your system, I'm looking at your page, and there's already quite a few badges on that. And as you guys continue to roll out more badges, that interface design is also going to be a very important visual design. So talk a little bit about your ideas behind the design and behind the visual design of the badges, and then also how you guys are thinking about creating maybe visuals for people navigating your badge system.
Yeah, it's funny because when I started doing this project, I had the mistaken guidance, foolishness, I guess you'd call it, that the badge design would be the easy bit. The bits that really mattered were the assessment, the metadata sitting underneath and all that. And we've spent a very long time on badge design and involved, as I said, a number of people, both teachers as well as internal course staff, talking about design and what we wanted to reflect. I think for us at CORE, it was important that our badges represented us, our tātai ahuro, who we are, the weave of what makes CORE. And so it was easy with the ULearn badges in terms of bringing in the ULearn logo, and Connected Educator Month, obviously bringing in the Connected Educator logo into that. Our eFellows badges and our next stages of badges, we're still talking about design and still talking about what they want, because you're right, as our suite of badges grow, we need to have them very identifiable. One, that they're cause, but two, what they're representing. We don't, they need to be clear about what they're like and the staggered levels, so that a badge that's taken a very long time for someone to earn stands out or is more symbolic of that you can see in a visual glance, and perhaps you can see with some of the other badges. So, and it's hard to get that right. And thank you for the comments. Our graphic designer Shakti will be thrilled with your comments because he spent a lot of time working on the designs. And so it's, you know, when you're working with such a small space, it's really hard to incorporate a lot on without them looking chunky or losing the essence of them. So yeah, I've been surprised about how long it's taken, and that's, you know, as I said, badge design was one of the things I want to talk about, to know how others are doing them and how, yeah, the thinking process that goes in, and I guess, yeah, to give us guidance of next steps and how we can go forward with our thinking in terms of where we are. I mean, obviously we've got a plan in mind of how they'll look, but you're right, as the stable of badges goes bigger, where do we put them? And how do we make them visual?
With plain, you touched on an issue there that we really faced, was that the whole notion of when you start to make badges stackable or aggregatable to gain a higher badge, then you need those higher badges to have visually a slightly different form, something that gives them the oomph to be that higher level badge. So it really starts to get tricky after that if you haven't got your first level right. It can get quite complicated. So that was something that we found was really interesting, and certainly, you know, good graphic artists worth their weight in gold. You know, someone who intuitively understands what it is you're trying to do. Because as you take them up to higher levels and badges that might represent, you know, putting together of missions or you know, sequences of badges, or indeed. Professionally, people putting their own collection of badges together to make up a more significant badge, then those need to be recognisable and have more weight in not just in the evidence that is behind them, because that goes without saying, but visually, yeah.
Okay, so I'm just aware that we're nearly at 8 o'clock, and time has just flown by. Thank you so much, Tara. So I'm just looking at the Etherpad and asking everyone, are there any other questions that people have for Tara? All right, so with that, I just want to say thank you, Tara. That's just been fantastic. I hope you'll share the slides, and you know, this will go online and people will be able to review it later, which is great.
We did have a question. Sorry, Joyce.
Yeah, go ahead.
We did have a question, but it's not necessarily for Tara, but she may know of. About high schools issuing badges that students could be taking to other places, onto university or other places. And we know in America a lot of out-of-school organisations are issuing open badges. But do we know of schools that are doing it? Is that happening in New Zealand, Tara, do you know?
It's starting to happen here. We've got a very small group of schools, one primary and 3 secondary, that are looking at doing it now. One's much further down the track, and the others are developing, and they're being encouraged to come in and join this network for that reason. At different stages of thinking, but I think it's exciting to see that potential is coming through, so that it not only recognises and provides that visual mapway for our qualification system here, but it recognises those things that aren't necessarily awarded. It's like the rest of badging, you know, very early days.
Yeah, and just a question from Colin, quick question, whether you had involved your marketing department in your badge design, and I know that at ANU and at Deakin they certainly did, and went, you know, several rounds with people. I'm assuming you had a similar experience.
Yes, our marketing were involved from the start, and particularly around the promotional material that'll come out later on. But I have to say they've been excellent as well. You know, very good at giving direction and guiding as well as anything else. So, yeah, it's all been useful.
Well, you're getting lots and lots of good feedback in the chat, and you can go back and follow up on that and connect with everyone who was here. We had quite a few people in, so it's been really, really wonderful, and people are saying that they found it really useful. So thank you so much for sharing. Just before I leave it to Bron to wrap up, I just want to call people's attention to two things. One is I'm doing a presentation on open badges at the Melbourne Knowledge Week, which is at the end of the month. It starts on the 27th of October. And they're introductory sessions, so probably too advanced for people here, but if you've got other people around you and they're in Melbourne, then you can send them that way for them to get an introduction. And the other thing that's much more advanced, which is an event that myself and Tara and Bron are also going to be at, is the Digital Credentialing Forum that's being hosted by Deakin as part of their OLT grant project, and that's happening on the 13th of November at Deakin University in Burwood. And I haven't added the link to the Etherpad, but I will, and it's also on our Scoop It page. So with that, I'm giving it to Bron.
It's also happening in Wollongong and in Queensland. So there are centres that you can join to be part of that day. So look out for that, and as Joyce said, she'll post the link. I want to say thank you to Tara. I'm really excited. I love the visual of the badges. I love that you've considered so many of the things, community-oriented things that I really care about, and I can see, having been in New Zealand recently at teaching events and professional events, that teachers are just going to eat this up, and you're going to get really good research that we're going to want to hear loads more about down the track. So I think I speak for everybody that this has really been a fantastic session, and if people weren't here tonight, they'll be watching the YouTube recording to catch up and follow up with you. Are you happy to take questions from anyone if they want to follow up with you directly, Tara?
Yep, yes, I'm more than happy. So people can contact me on Twitter or via my email address, and I haven't got a chat function to be able to put that up at the moment. But look, I'm with Core Education and Tara Fagan, so it's tarafagan at core-ed.org. Love questions, love to keep the conversation going. And just thank you for everyone for hearing about our project and for the suggestions and the comments that have come through. It's been really, really valuable, so thank you.
Magic, and thanks so much for stepping in to be a case study. I know it's at late for you as well, although a little bit better since we've gone into daylight saving here at this end. But thanks so much, it's been brilliant. And Joyce, when will we be having our next call?
It should be the first Wednesday in November. So out of my head, I'm going with second or third, but don't quote me on that. So it'll be the first Wednesday in November will be the next one, and I will add it to the Etherpad. And we're still looking for speakers, so anyone who's got a project that they're contemplating, I was just trying to talk to Grant about it as well. You know, we're very keen to hear about people's projects. It doesn't need to be finished. You know, we're open to just, you know, kind of talking about the project and help give feedback as well. So thanks everyone.
Maybe we'll look for that for a high school that's doing something, because there seems some interest in that area, and I think I know of one, so I might do some homework and see if we can to present.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that, we'll call it a night. And thanks to Tara, thanks to Bron, and thanks to everyone online. Yes, let's keep the conversation going. Thank you so much. It's been really valuable. All right. Good night, everyone. Kia ora.